Hello, everyone. I am Sean, and welcome once again to my Horror Corner. As always, thank you so much for watching today. I do appreciate you tuning in. And again, a special thank you to those of you who have subscribed to the channel. You guys, your support, your encouragement. I know I say it every episode, but it means so much to me. So thank you for being a subscriber. You're the best. I really do appreciate it. Today, we are going to be talking about. Another somewhat classic, the 1977 Wes Craven film "The Hills Have Eyes." So, surprisingly, I thought I had seen this movie before. I know I've seen the remake, but actually, I had only seen parts of this film. I had never watched this original from beginning to end, and so um, this was a first time watch for me today as I watched it to get ready for this episode. So, yeah, interesting. Yeah, that's kind of all I know to say here at the moment. But yeah, I mean, I've heard a lot about it. I know it's considered a classic. Wes Craven, probably my favorite director. I think he was absolutely amazing. I mean, this is the guy that brought us, A Nightmare on Elm Street, Scream, just so many classics and great things. And so to get to go back and watch this one for the first time, um, yeah, I can see where it, could be considered a classic there a little bit. So, um, yeah, this will be fun to talk about today. So, let me put on my glasses so we can get started, and I can read my notes, and we'll get into The Hills Have Eyes. So, tagline for the film: "The lucky ones died first." Brief overview for the movie. Taking an ill advised detour en route to California, the Carter family soon run into trouble when their RV breaks down in the middle of the desert. Stranded, they find themselves at the mercy of monstrous cannibals lurking in the surrounding hills. Um, quick side note, the last movie that I did, Diary of the Dead, um, the group in there also has an RV that breaks down. So weird coincidence that we're talking about two movies where there's an RV that seems to have some issues. But anyway, it is what it is. The film released on July 22nd of 1977, directed and written by Wes Craven, produced by Peter Locke, cinematography done by Eric Sarin, I'm not sure there. Edited by Wes Craven, music by Don Peake, distributed by Vanguard, a runtime of 89 minutes, budget of somewhere between 350 and 700,000, but box office 25 million, so huge hit at the box office. Rotten Tomatoes score 68% from critics, 54% from the audience. IMDb score of 6.3 out of 10. Cast for the film: Susan Lanier, Robert Houston, Martin Spear, Dee Wallace, Russ Grieve, John Stedman, Michael Berryman, and Virginia Vincent. Um, so, as always, let's stop there for just a moment to talk about the cast and the characters in this film. Um, One thing, and I don't want to compare this too much to the remake, because again, this is one of those where I saw the remake before I saw the original, and I don't want to get into too much talking about the remake. However, that being said, um, I think I like the characters a little better in the remake. Not that they're bad in this. Uh, Seeing Dee Wallace is great. Dee Wallace is such an icon, so being able to watch one of these that she's in from back in the day is fun. Um, so enjoyed seeing her. But other than that, I mean, it's not that anybody other than the cannibals, all very unlikable, of course, but it's not that anybody from the Carter family is really unlikable. It's just that they didn't really stand out as being that likable to me either. They're just kind of an average group of people. Um, the mom, I believe Ethel is her name. Super sweet lady. And again, nobody's bad. It's not that I dislike any of them. I just, wasn't a huge fan of any of them either. Now, other than Dee Wallace, and I think that's just because she's such an icon. So her character, which I believe name is Lynn in the film, um, acting for the film, I feel like it was overall it was good. Everybody turned in good performances. There was one particular character, Bobby, the actor that plays him. I kind of struggle with his performance, to be honest with you. It didn't seem natural to me, his performance. So if there was any acting in the film that I had a problem with, it would probably be his. Other than that, I feel like everybody did a fine job. Again, nothing out here that just really stands out and is amazing performances, but it was all fine. yeah, for the most part. There's maybe a few things here and there where it didn't seem like it was great, but overall, it's fine. Um, so yeah, that's kind of my thought. I mean, again, you might be saying, well, how can you not like these characters? Again, it's not that I dislike them. It's just it's not like I don't know, maybe just because it's an older cast that I'm not familiar with very many of them. I mean, I honestly I don't know, but you watch movies like Scream. You love the cast in Scream. Just as an example, things like that, and even the remake, I just found myself kind of liking that group of people a little bit better. I really don't know why. Now it's been a long time since I've seen that remake, so maybe if I go back and watch it, I might feel differently. But yeah, just a mediocre group of people here. Nobody that really jumps out to me as a favorite character or anything like that, other than possibly Lynn, and that's just because again it's Dee Wallace. So that's just kind of my thoughts on the cast of the characters. Again, not. Uh, Nothing special, but everybody did fine, with the exception of maybe the guy that played Bobby, and maybe that's just me. It's not that his overall performance was bad. There's just times in the film where it seemed very, I don't know, forced and unnatural to me on that part. But anyway, let's talk. Let me give you a few notes here as far as behind the scenes information about the film, and then we'll start to walk through this plot. I actually do have quite a few things I want to mention here as far as the behind the scenes stuff. So Wes Craven based the script on the legend of the Scottish cannibal Sawney Bean. Bean was the head of a 48-person clan who was they were basically torturing people. They were setting people on fire. They were hanging people. They were eating people, and they're responsible for the torture and death of over 1,000 people, according to um, that story. I had never heard that before, to be completely honest with you, until I was researching this film. So it sounds like that was a horrible group of people. I knew nothing about it. I started to dig into it and do a little bit more research on that Sonny Bean individual and his clan and exactly what they were doing and that type of thing. But at the time of this recording, I'm recording this on September the 16th. I am still, for those of you that have been watching my episodes and watching my channel, I am still dealing with some kidney stones and still having to take medication to deal with pain. Um, some of the medication makes me very sleepy. And so, yeah, I was going to do some more research, but I just had to rest for a little bit. But again, I'm recording this on the 16th. Um, I go to a urologist tomorrow to hopefully get some answers and maybe start to make some progress on making the situation better. Just to give you an update on my health situation, if anyone was interested. Craven was also influenced by the Texas Chainsaw Massacre film from 1974, classic movie, and I'll be talking about that on a future episode here with Isaiah from the Bitter Wolf. But and you can definitely see that. You can definitely see it's got that same feel somewhat as the Texas Chainsaw Massacre movie. Feels very gritty, very, I don't know, dirty for lack of a better word. But I can definitely see that vibe here and kind of the influence there. I also noticed that, or saw mentioned that that's kind of where this in the Texas Chainsaw Massacre and in The Hills Have Eyes, you have a family that's out. They end up getting stranded, and then it's this family versus a group of cannibals. Gosh, I cannot talk right now. So the similarities there with the Texas Chainsaw Massacre, and in fact, many of the remaining props from the Texas Chainsaw Massacre were used in this film as well. So, yeah, kind of that there. At the time, Craven was actually considering collaborating with Sean S. Cunningham from Friday the 13th on doing a horror Hansel and Gretel film. But his producer and friend, Peter Locke, who did produce this film, uh, wanted something similar to The Last House on the Left that Craven had done a few years prior. And so that's ended up being what they settled on. Michael Berryman, who plays Pluto in this movie, was thrilled to be in a horror film because he had a huge love of the old black and white Universal monster movies and was super excited to get to play in a horror movie. Um, Janice, I believe is her name. Bythe. Let me see if I wrote that. Sometimes I can't read my own writing when I'm writing in a hurry. Yeah, I don't have that mentioned. Um, she won the role of Ruby in this film, who's part of the cannibalistic family there. She won the role of Ruby by outrunning all of the other auditioning actresses. They wanted the character of Ruby to be very fast in this movie, and so they needed a fast runner. And basically, they had all of these auditioning actresses for this role race, and Miss Blythe won, and so that's how she was cast as Ruby. Gunnar Hansen, who played Leatherface in the original Texas Chainsaw Massacre, was also offered a role, but he rejected it because he was in the process of moving to Maine and working on a writing career. But he did state later that he regretted not being in the film. The movie was shot in the Mojave Desert in California, where temperatures ranged from 120 degrees during the day to 30 degrees at night, and it was very difficult conditions for a lot of the cast. In the filming of this movie. That's all I've got as far as the behind the scenes stuff. Just some interesting things there that I thought were kind of cool to mention. But let's go ahead and get into the plot. I'm going to get a drink of water first, and then we'll start walking through the movie The Hills Have Eyes and kind of give you my opinion. Uh, Excuse me, I'm trying to drink as much water as possible to help pass these stones. But anyway, all right. So we start the movie with an older man named Fred, who basically it's in this very rundown area, not a lot going on, almost deserted and destroyed area out in the desert. But he owns this little gas station, and we find Fred. Interacting with a girl named Ruby, who is wanting to trade some things that she has found for food because she's hungry. Fred is basically telling her no, he doesn't have anything else to trade, and he's also mentioning to her that if her family knew that Ruby asks Fred to take her with him when he leaves. Uh, Fred's warning her that if her family found out what she was doing, she would be in a lot of trouble. And there's kind of mention by Fred here a few times about this family of Rubies and how dangerous they are. While this is going on, the Carter family arrives, and Fred tries to hide Ruby as this Carter family arrives to get some gas. They have two dogs, and the dogs are definitely very. The dogs are sensing something. You can tell dogs are barking a lot. Um, Finally, we also see some shots of kind of some people running around, trying to hide and things like that around the station. Um, yeah, Ruby manages to get away. The Carter family, kind of talks. Fred is telling them that they need to stay on the main roads after, they get done what they get their gas and that kind of thing. Um, the Carter family leaves, and then Fred goes to get Ruby and finds that she has escaped. And then we also hear that as the Carter family are pulling away, we see that there are people watching them and communicating on some kind of a radio or walkie-talkie about this family. So that's kind of the opening to the film. My thoughts here. Yeah, it's fine. Nothing, in my opinion, that was just incredibly special or stood out on this. We kind of get our introduction to the Carter family, as I mentioned briefly, and to all of those cast members. We kind of hear some of the lore about some other people that are around. But yeah, I mean, it's just really just kind of setting up things, and it does that. It's fine. I mean, it does what it needs to do. I do feel like here, as I mentioned when I was comparing or talking about this film being influenced by the Texas Chainsaw Massacre, I think you kind of get that vibe here again because it's just a very gritty, um, hot. I keep using the word dirty, but I don't know what other word to use. Kind of atmosphere and setting, and that does make it similar to the Texas Chainsaw Massacre as well. So, um, yeah, it's fine. It's a fine opening. Again, I wasn't blown away by anything, but it did what it needed to do. Um, from there, we heard Fred mention some things throughout this about um, the Air Force using some of this area to do some testing, and there's planes flying over at times. And so, as the Carter family is leaving, there are some airplanes that fly over very low and very loud, and it kind of freaks them out. This is kind of an odd scene to me. It's kind of a silly scene that this had this kind of effect on them. But the dad, Bob, he gets kind of freaked out by these planes, that how loud they are and how low they're flying, I guess, and he starts speeding and loses control of the car and they crash. Again, I thought that was kind of silly because we learned that Bob was a police officer, and he mentions at one point about all the things that he had been through and never killed him. but yet he got so rattled by some airplanes. This scene's kind of silly and doesn't really make a lot of sense to me. I feel like there could have been something else done to um, make it better rather than him just freaking out about planes that caused the car to crash. But I mean, again, it's just a minor nitpick for me. But I did think that was a little odd. But again, it does, it's got to set them up for being stranded, and so that's what it does. There's also a scene there. Again, we see more of them being watched by someone, and there's a scene there that I wanted to mention something about. Dee Wallace's character Lynn, she goes into the after this crash, they're all standing around the camper and trying to come up with a plan, and Bob Bob's going to walk in one direction to try to get some help, and Doug, who is Lynn's husband, he's going to walk in another direction to try to get some help. But there's a scene where Lynn, Dee Wallace's character, goes into the camper to get something. I honestly don't even remember. I think she's getting a jacket or something like that for Doug. But as she goes in there is a tarantula on the jacket. And one of the things I read about this film is that was not in the original script, but someone involved with making the film, I don't remember if it was a producer or cameraman or what, but they found a spider on the side of the road and wanted to put that in the movie. So they put this tarantula in the film just because they found this big spider on the side of the road. Another little, behind the scenes note there. But yeah, nothing really happens. Dee just kind of, or Lynn, excuse me, has to, get the jacket out from under the spider. But Bob and Doug then do go for their walks. One of the dogs, by the name of Beauty, also, the dogs are still very spooked and barking a lot about the area and what's going on, and seem to sense something happening. And Beauty gets free and runs off. Um, One of the sons in the family named Bobby, the character I was talking about that I kind of questioned the performances a little bit, he chases off after Beauty to try to find her and bring her back. Again, we're just really setting things up here. Again, nothing special has happened, in my opinion, still at this point, early into the film. We're just, again, moving the plot along and setting some things up. And so at this point, when I was watching this this morning, I'm like, okay, I mean, this is fine. Nothing great has happened. This movie is not just blowing my socks off. And I know it's considered a classic, but right now I'm just thinking this is okay. I mean, it's fine. Um, yeah, I mean, I really don't know what else to say there. Nothing special, but just kind of continuing along. Nothing bad. Just questioning a couple of things here and there. Um, Bobby ends up coming across Beauty. He does end up finding her. He hears her yelp, and then he comes across her and finds her. And when he finds her, we can tell that she's been killed. She's been gutted open, basically. And he's very shaken up by this. He starts to run away. And when he does, he ends up tripping and falling and knocking himself out. Later, Brenda, one of the daughters, goes and she ends up finding Bobby as he's back up and walking around and kind of out of it a little bit, but he makes a decision to not tell her about Beauty so that he doesn't scare her, as he's a little freaked out himself right now. Bob makes it back to the convenience store and finds, or the gas station, and finds Fred. And when he finds Fred, Fred is trying to hang himself. There's they interact a little bit with Bob asking him why and what's going on. And while this is going on, again, we get another cut of the rest of the family who's back at the camper and they're still being watched. But yeah, um, Fred then begins to tell Bob the story of his son Jupiter, that Jupiter was very large when he was born. Also had some issues, apparently, that a lot of the family's livestock ended up dead. The house caught on fire and burned down, and Fred was convinced that Jupiter was responsible for all of this, and even wanted to get rid of him. Basically, he said that he hit him with a tire iron and left him to die somewhere. So you see, Fred also has some issues here, apparently, but he's telling Bob this story. But apparently, Jupiter survived and ended up having came across a prostitute who he had a relationship with, and then had three sons and a daughter. We've met Ruby so far, so we know that that was the daughter. But while he's telling Fred this story, Jupiter crashes through the window and ends up killing Fred. Um, Bob then takes off running to try to get away after he sees Fred's body. And earlier in the film, we had we hear Bob and Ethel, his wife, having a discussion about, Bob has left the police force, and part of the issue being his heart, him having some heart issues. And so while trying to run away, of course, Bob is hearing voices. He knows there's someone after him. He knows there's something going on, but he overexerts himself and he collapses. And then when he collapses, we see someone come up to him, and then the screen cuts. So for this part, I feel like now things are starting to pick up. We're starting to get some things happening a little bit. I did find it intriguing. It was interesting, and causing me to invest a little more now into what was going on. Um, Again, I don't think there was anything just mind blowing. Similar to the Texas Chainsaw Massacre, I had heard how for the longest time before I ever saw the original Texas Chainsaw Massacre, growing up, I kept hearing how uh, violent and gory that film was. And yes, it's violent, but it's not that gory. Um, and people have talked about that. I mean, that's nothing, nothing that no one hasn't heard before. But I also feel like I had heard the same thing about this, that it was a very gross, gory film. I don't really think so. We get a little bit of gore in a few places. Again, we saw the dog that was killed. So there's a few things that happen here and there. But yeah, overall, I don't think there's a lot of that in this movie. Um, but the fact that we have got our first kill now, as Fred's been killed, we know something is happening with Bob. So things are starting to happen, and the action's starting to pick up, and the everything that's been set up is now starting to take place, and I think they do a good job of that. It's just enough to spark your interest and kind of pull you in to see what's going to happen and go on in this film. Um, we now cut back to the camper where Doug has returned. Wasn't really able to find anybody. Did find some things, but wasn't able to find anybody. He's talking to the family, and then we cut and we see that Bob is being crucified by Jupiter and his family. He's being, nailed to a cross. We also see here that while he's being crucified, um, Ruby, apparently, the family's frustrated with her. She's been chained up and is being forced to eat the dog that was killed. They've cooked the dog now, and they're eating this dog, or she's being forced to eat this dog. Um, we then see Pluto, which played by Michael Berryman, outside the camper. He's ciphering gas, and then Bobby goes outside at one point. He hears something out there, and so when he goes outside to look around. Um, because I think at this point now the other dog has also taken off. If I remember correctly, Beast is the other dog's name. It has also taken off, and so Bobby's outside. But while he's outside, he leaves the door open, and Pluto then sneaks onto the camper. Um, when Bobby gets back to the camper, we see that Pluto is inside and the door is shut and locked. Bobby goes to Doug and Lynn, who are in the station wagon that was connected to the camper. Um, he's wanting to get their keys from them, and then he finally goes ahead and breaks down and tells them that Beast has run off and that Beauty is dead. Back inside the camper, we see that Pluto has been looking around, and both Ethel and Brenda are asleep. Um, Pluto uses the radio to reach out to his group and let them know to go ahead and start the fire. And so they end up setting Bob, now who's been crucified, they end up setting him on fire, kind of as a distraction. And when the family takes off to run towards this fire, Mars, one of the other Jupiter's kids, comes on to the camper as well. Um, Mars comes on. He like eats a pet bird, I believe, is what's happening here. We see Pluto attacking Brenda, um, and then Mars kind of pulls Pluto off of her, but then he attacks her. The family out there distinguishes the fire that's on Bob, but Bob, of course, is he ends up passing away. Ethel and Lynn return to the camper, and as they get to the camper and come up on, they find Mars and Pluto. Mars has the baby. Ethel and actually not Ethel, Lynn and Doug have a baby that was there as well, and so Mars now has this baby, and is trying to get away. And kind of a struggle here breaks out, but in the process, Mars ends up shooting both Ethel and Lynn. And then Pluto grabs the baby, and they take off, just as Doug and Bobby get back to the camper. Um, Again, here I'll stop for a moment because now, again, the action's definitely picked up. We have a lot more going on. I like this scene. I thought this was actually pretty well done. Um, I had heard from other people that either the Pluto character or the Mars character one raped Brenda while they were on the camper. It does kind of give that indication, but it doesn't. It luckily doesn't show it. So you're not. I'm not 100% sure that that's what happened. I don't necessarily think that's what happened with Pluto. I think maybe he was about to, and Mars stopped him, and then I guess Mars was about to as well. But yeah, you get to see the craziness of this family. You see Brenda absolutely terrified. Um, we get the fire scene, where Bob is on fire. Yeah, it's fine. Again, it's well done for the most part. I think everything is okay. There was one thing I question a little bit, and that is while Bob is on fire, he's been crucified and hung to this thing, and he's set on fire as the family is running to see if they can help him. We hear Bob talking, and he's like, help me put this fire out. He's also screaming a lot, which is totally understandable. I thought the talking part was a little bit silly. I don't, I mean, I've never been, hung up on some boards and set on fire, so I don't know. But I would feel like he would be in way too much pain and anguish. I'm sure the screaming makes perfect sense, but to be able to actually talk in complete sentences, like, somebody help me put this fire out, it's burning. I just thought that was silly. Again, I don't think that that's how that would go down. But again, that's probably just me nitpicking a little bit. But for the most part, I'm enjoying everything that's going on. I'm enjoying what I'm seeing here. There's and I think some of this is being done well, but it's still not anything that's just blowing my mind about, wow, this is really good. I'm not getting that feeling at all. And at the same time, there are just a couple little nitpicks that I'm having with the movie here and there. So I'm finding myself at this point, probably about the halfway point in the film, maybe not disliking the movie, but not really loving it either. Just like, okay, I'm interested. I want to see this. I want to continue with this. I want to know how this all turns out because it has. I mean, I've seen the remake, but it's been a while. Um, but again, just not. I'm in it, but not 100% in it. If that makes any sense, what I'm trying to say. So back to it from there. Um, yeah, we talked about that. So Pluto and Mars have ran away. Doug and Bobby are back. They realize that Lynn has passed away. She was shot and killed. Ethel has been shot. She's not dead yet, but she's on the verge of dying, basically. Mars and Pluto have got the baby. They radio their other brother, Mercury, and they're talking to Mercury about how they got this baby and this is a family full of cannibals. Their plan is to eat the baby, basically. And so they're telling Mercury about this on this radio. But once the radio conversation stops, we see Beast, the other dog, and he ends up knocking Mercury off a cliff, killing him. Um, Initially, Mars and Pluto don't know this. They arrive back at the home, which is almost like a cave, and they present the baby to Jupiter, and his wife is there. Ruby is there. Um, they're talking about eating the baby, but then they start wondering where Mercury is, and Jupiter sends Pluto to go try to find Mercury. While this is happening, Ethel does die on the camper, and the family is still there. And Bobby then hears on the radio, because one of the radios was left there during everything that went on. Bobby then hears Jupiter and Pluto discussing on the radio that Mercury is dead, and Jupiter wants the rest of this family killed. So we then cut, and Doug is now gone to find Katie. He's trying to find his baby. Beast has gone with him, and Bobby and Brenda have stayed back at the camper, and Bobby's trying to radio for help to try to get someone coming in. We have a scene then where Jupiter and Pluto are running. They're trying to get to the camper. Um, in the process of this, Beast ends up attacking Pluto and biting his leg and injuring him. Jupiter does come back and seem to run Beast off, but now Pluto is hurt. Um, I believe it's at this point that because of what's happened here, Jupiter radios Mercury and tells Mercury to kill the baby. Go ahead and kill the baby at this point. But having heard this, Ruby, excuse me, the daughter there in the family, uh, makes a decision to save the baby. And she takes off with the baby. So now we've got um, Mercury chasing Ruby because she's got the baby. Doug is out there looking for them. Jupiter is on his way to the camper to try to kill Bobby and Brenda. There's a lot going on right now, but it's kind of fun, honestly, at this point, because there's so many different things going on. And again, I think it does enough to pull you in where you want to see what's happening. If you've never seen this before, for sure. Like, again, this was a first time watch for me. So I thought it was interesting the way they were going along with this and the way everything was being set up. Again, it pulled me in and I wanted to see how it was all going to play out. Um, One scene that did not look good again, and this is just me nitpicking, but the scene where Ruby is running with the baby trying to get away from Mercury, you just see this probably a doll, I'm sure is what she was running with, but just flopping all over everywhere. It just didn't look good, but again, that's just me nitpicking. um, Beast ends up showing back up though and attacking and biting Pluto's throat, seemingly killing him. Bobby and Brenda back at the camper have kind of got this plan and a couple of traps set up where they're trying to kill Jupiter. Things don't totally work out the way they wanted, but then they do end up getting to eventually get to him and kill him. I think he's fighting with Bobby and Brenda stabs him in the back with something, and then Bobby ends up shooting him a few times. So they've taken care of Jupiter. Um, Ruby gets the baby to Doug, and now Mars is chasing Doug. Doug tries to kind of hide the baby. They end up getting into a fight, and it looks like Mars is going to get the upper hand and kill Doug. And when this happens, Ruby shows back up, uses a snake that she has caught to bite Mars, and uh, then Doug goes ahead and stabs and kills Mars, and that's the end of the film. I mean, that's it. That's a walkthrough of The Hills Have Eyes from 1977. I thought the ending was fine. Seemingly all of this cannibal family is dead. Now I know that there is a Hills Have Eyes 2, so I'm going to assume that that is not the case, but I have never seen it. So at some point down the road, I'll watch it and probably come on and talk about it. But yeah, I thought the ending was good. Yeah, I mean, again, I'm just trying to. This is not a bad film. It's not like I didn't like this. I enjoyed getting to see it, but there are just enough things here and there causing me to. And again, I know they're nitpicks, but there are just enough of them um, that it bothers me a little bit. Um, the movie's fine. Gosh, I really don't know. It's one of those movies that, in some ways, it's hard to review because while there is a lot happening and there's so many things do take place over the course of this film, but at the same time I don't think it's anything that's just amazing or like I said, mind-blowing. There's nothing that happens in this movie that I'm like, oh my god, that was awesome, or oh wow, that was a really good kill, or uh I guess a few tense moments, but it never really even felt um, that intense. One of the things where I feel like this doesn't measure up, even though it's got the same vibe of the Texas Chainsaw Massacre, it doesn't have the same tension to it. And initially, I thought it kind of might early on because it does. It looks so gritty, but it also kind of has that realism feel early on that Texas Chainsaw Massacre has. But then that seems to go away a little bit, and it just didn't. Yeah, I don't know. I find this movie very middle of the road. Really is the only thing I know to say. It's just a very middle of the road film. It's not a bad movie at all, but I don't think it's a really good movie either. It's just very middle of the road. And so my rating scale of 1 to 10, I think I'll give The Hills Have Eyes a 6. Again, it's not a bad movie. I'm glad I finally got to see the original, but it's not anything that's just absolutely mind blowing to me or standing out as being a really good film either. Just very middle of the road, average horror movie type thing. So that's where I would put it. Now I will, at some point get around to watching the sequel and probably come on and talk about it, and then maybe even the remake somewhere down the road. But yeah, that's where I'm at for now on The Hills Have Eyes. So now I want to know what you think. If you've seen this movie, let me know what you think. Are you a fan of the original? Do you really like it? Tell me what you like about it. Tell me what you dislike about it. I want to know your thoughts. I want the interaction. So hit the like button and tell me what you think about The Hills Have Eyes from 1977. If you haven't subscribed to the channel yet, please do so. Help me continue to grow this channel and get it out there. I do videos every Monday and Thursday, and then occasionally Saturday bonus episodes. Got a lot of fun stuff planned coming up. Next week, I will have a episode come out on The Town That Dreaded Sundown. Possibly going to have a guest for that if we can get some things worked out. And then later in the week, my friend Isaiah will be back, and he and I will be talking about the Texas Chainsaw Massacre. So some great episodes coming up, some fun stuff in October. It's going to be so much fun. I'm really looking forward to going through October's schedule. Guests on every episode talking about some great slasher films. So yeah, please subscribe so you don't miss any of that. Again, follow me on social media. Blue Sky, Instagram, Threads, TikTok, X, Sean's Horror Corner. You search that, you should be able to find me on everything out there. Give me a follow. I do try to follow back as much as possible. And like I said, if you haven't subscribed yet, please do so. Hit that like button and leave me some comments, and I will wrap this episode up. I'll be back in a few days to talk about The Town That Dreaded Sundown, and maybe I'll have a guest on with me for that episode. Thank you again for watching. I will see you soon.